bum ba dum bum. Ya da dee da dee da ya da la 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 ya 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 dee 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 da ya yo ya da 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 ya da da dee da dee da ya ya da da dee dee da da ya da yo wa da yo wa ya dee da ya da 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 dee da 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 dum ba dee dum dee da 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 dee da la la dee da da dee da dum ba yo hey ya da ya ya da la la ay 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 la 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 yo yo dee 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 hey ya da dee da da ya da dum dee da dee da dee da da dee da dee da dee da ya wa ya dee da dee da dum ba dee da dum ba ya hey da ya 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 dee da la dee da hi la 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 hey ya la 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 ya ya nam nam hi ya la 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 ya la ya la 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 dee da dum dee da dum ba dee dum dee da da ya ya dee da da la la ba dee dum dee da la 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 ba da hey ba ba dum ba dee dum ba dee da dum ba dee da da dum ba da da hey ha da la 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 dee da da ya yo dee 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 da ya ya da dum dee da dum. Good yontiv, everybody. Good yontiv. Welcome. Yutes Kislev Chaga Geula the Alter Rebbe Bala Yeshua. What a day. Yutes Kislev that we are celebrating. The day over 200 years ago that the Alter Rebbe was released from prison. Many of you are very familiar with the story. But before we get into anything, let us say hello to Batya, all the way in Montreal. And we have with us Sandy in Michigan has joined us. Good evening. Joseph in New Jersey. Diane is in Arizona. Good evening there. TJ, all the way in Australia. Okay. Where it must be something like 9:30 in the morning. Something like that. Who else is joining us? Daphne is here in South Carolina. Erica is all the way in Norway, where it's also pretty late. Yvonne, welcome. Shalom. Who else is? Karen is with us in Ohio. Welcome. Jeff in Michigan is here. Tim in Texas, Andrews in New Jersey, in Springfield. It's 11:36 a.m. So it's that's 16-hour difference. Ken in Colorado, shalom. We have Batya Austin, David, shalom, Benji, joining us here in the Farbregen on Clubhouse. We have Judifier, Mashiach now. We have my daughter Esty. All right, it's beautiful. All the way in Montreal. Akoy in Peru. Some other names I can't make out. Sam. Who else is here? Oh, in Iran. All right. Beautiful. We have from Iran joining us. Zara is in Malaysia. Clem in Brisbane, Australia. Erica, it's 1:37 a.m. with extreme amounts of snow, the most since 1981. Wow. You've taken our snow away. That's okay, keep it. Because Montreal always gets snow by now, but not today. Okay, folks. First things first. It's Yom Tov. It's a special day. Time to say l'chaim. So we're going to make a l'chaim. And Farbregen together. Okay, if anybody has some l'chaim at home they would like to make, please do. And some club soda for my chaser to help it go down easier. So the first thing, a bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nהיה b'dbarei. L'chaim, everybody. L'chaim. L'chaim bracha. We said a conjunctive. The previous Rebbe said that this is a Yom Tov, that we should actually wish each other, that we should be written and sealed for a good year in the learning of Chassidus, and not just the learning of the Chassidus, but living it, implementing it, the path of Chassidus. So it should be a wonderful year for that. L'chaim to everybody, l'chaim. So Farbregen, on 3 platforms, it's probably not the easiest thing, but that's okay. Having it on Clubhouse and Instagram and Facebook. But I want to make it engaging with all of you, so please, be a part. So Yud Tis Kislev. In 1798, the Alter Rebbe is imprisoned for 53 days. He's released from prison on this day, in the midst of saying the verse, Pada b'shalom nafshi, that my soul was redeemed in peace, and that the multitude were with me. From King David, Psalm 55. And with those words, he is indeed released from imprisonment. The Tsar of Russia in Petersburg, the capital, after being interrogated with many different questions that he answered to their liking, on trumped up charges, excuse the phrase, of abetting the enemy, the Ottoman Empire. He was an enemy of the Tsar of Russia at the time, because he was sending money. And he was indeed sending money to the land of Israel under the control of the Ottoman Empire, but he was sending it to the poor and the destitute Jews, Hasidim, that lived there to help them. But that was the pretext that was used in order to, imprison him. What was the imprisonment about? Well, his very teachers came to him in his imprisonment. They were not in this physical world anymore. The Baal Shem Tov and the Kislev, but they came to him. How? Well, the righteous meeting the righteous, somehow they figured it out. And he asked them, what am I doing here? Well, you're in prison because of your teachings, and there's a decree on high. So should I finish, or should I end my teachings, perhaps? This is a sign from heaven not to engage in the teachings of Tanya. And said, no. On the contrary, you will be released from prison, and this will be then a sign from heaven that you should increase the teachings ever more so. And in fact, that's what's happened. Right? But the question is asked. One individual is released from prison and we make such a big deal about it? Where do we see that in Jewish history? Where do we experience such a thing? Actually, we don't. We celebrate when something happens to the collective whole of the Jewish people. Like, we all went out of Egypt. We celebrate Passover. We got saved, the entire nation, in the story of Purim and Hanukkah that's coming up. So we celebrate. But it wasn't an individual redemption. It was a redemption of the entire Jewish people. Where do we see a redemption of an individual, and because of that we make us celebrate, that we take out a bottle and we say l'chaim? We don't say tachanun these 2 days, the supplication prayer, because it's a celebrative time. How do we understand that for, again, one individual? Okay, this individual's, great individual, but how do we understand this historically when such a thing never happened? Traditional Jews are exactly that. Traditional Jews, meaning what has been handed down to them is what they hand down to their children and their children's children, children's children. If in one word you were to explain Judaism, you might, I sometimes would say it would be a tradition, a masorah that's passed down from generation to generation, from parent to child, from teacher to student. And this is the unbroken chain all the way back to Sinai. Well, that unbroken chain has seemingly no place for an individual's redemption, that it becomes now something for the multitude. It becomes for all of us. And we all need to celebrate. It's unique, to say the least. So let's understand that a bit. So, if you went out in the street, not here amongst us, but if you went out in the street and you asked about a contemporary of the Alter Rebbe, Napoleon, who actually the Alter Rebbe was very much against him in his battle against the Tsar of Russia, and the Alter Rebbe indeed helped tremendously the Tsar of Russia and was part of helping defeat Napoleon. But that's for another time. But the point is contemporary. If you went out in the street and you asked 10 people who Napoleon is, I would imagine most of, a high percentage would know who he is, right? An ice cream or a kind of cake. No. Of course, the Emperor of France, who wanted to conquer, the known world at the time. And if you would ask the same 10 people or more who the Alter Rebbe is, Shneur Zalman from Liadi, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't have a response, right? So, just to make the point even more emphatic, we're celebrating, someone who is, in our circles well known because so many of you come and learn Tanya every day. That's true. But, we're not talking about a Moses here that is known by the entire world. We're talking about an individual that is known in a very small element of the world. But that being said, let's flip it around. The same question, or take the question and flip it a bit, about the same two people, Napoleon and the Alter Rebbe. How many people today are followers of the Napoleonic teachings, politics? There's Napoleonic law, that's true, common law, but no. How many people today can say that we are real devotees and followers of Napoleon? Very few. Are those 10? You won't find any, probably. Thousands you probably wouldn't find. You might know people that are interested in the history, because they're history buffs, not because they are devotees to Napoleon. But the Alter Rebbe today has many devotees. He had devotees in his time, and he even has today people who are devoted to his teachings and the path that he has set for them and how to lead their lives. Many people He is impacting. The truth is, he's even impacting more people today than ever before. And with this, maybe we can understand an interesting idea. A great teacher is someone who can engage the students and keep the students not only occupied but interested and engaged in the studies, and that they are impacted by the studies of from a particular teacher. That's a great teacher. An even greater teacher is that when the teacher leaves the classroom, those students are still involved in the teachings and are focused and didn't turn away their attention just because the teacher has left the room. That's a real impact to make on students. An even greater and the greatest kind of teacher is that the teacher left the room. Not only the students that were there and know the teacher and are devotees to the teacher continuing with the lesson, but now new students have entered the room and don't even know the teacher personally. But through those students who know the teacher and are so inspired and so affected and impacted by the teachings that somehow they are affecting others to also come into the classroom, even though they will never get a lesson directly from the teacher. Well, that's our Alter Rebbe, right? The Alter Rebbe was in the classroom teaching his students, and they were very engaged. But then he left this world in 1812 when he passed away. And the students, well, they stayed in the classroom. They were still devoted, but now more students came to the classroom. And actually, the classroom was now even bigger than in his times. In his times, he had thousands of students studying his teaching and following the path that he set. As we mentioned in the beginning, that this is Yom Tov and that we wish each other a blessing, that we should be blessed in the studies, but not just the studies, but the path of Hasidic teachings. Right? The studies come into fruition into following the path of these teachings. And the Alter Rebbe now has more students than ever before, especially because internet, social media, now his message can go around the world in a way that has never been possible, capable of in the past. So here's one person making an impact as a great teacher. And that impact is only in one person, but yet that one person is a greater impact today than ever before. So we celebrate that. Now you still might ask the question, okay, we get it. Oh, great man, great impact, unbelievable. He is changing people's lives on a daily basis through his teachings now more than ever before. As I get messages from, I get a few messages every week from you out there about how these teachings have changed your life. And those are the people that reach out. Not everybody does that. Many people are impacted and they don't share it. I'm sure that they forward the message to others and they engage others, but there's so many that have been impacted, and that's just what I'm aware of. And there's so much more beyond me. But the Alter Rebbe has been impacting. So yeah, it's one individual, and we're celebrating. That though is unique. To celebrate one person in this manner. So we'll get back to this further a bit later on, but to more clearly appreciate why one person we should celebrate, even though he has great impact, but still that is unique. That is unique, Pesach, Passover, going out of Egypt is, the whole of the Jewish people. So is Hanukkah, so is Purim, so is the Shavuot standing on Mount Sinai, and so is Sukkot, the clouds of glory and the the clouds of glory and the booths that were there as protectorate of the Jewish people when they were in the desert for 40 years. Again, it's all a celebration about a collective whole of the Jewish people. But here it's of one individual. So let's understand a little more about his impact. How great is his impact? And what is his impact? So many of you know it on a personal level, again, because you've been learning together with me or with others, Tanya, and, it speaks to you. Very much so. So it's made an impact. But how would we describe that impact exactly? So I get, as I mentioned, many different messages, and I get many messages about the impact, but the impact is always described in so many different ways, which is true. There's so many different aspects of our lives that we get impacted, so of course it's going to be in different ways. But I'd like to suggest that what the Alter Rebbe has done for me and for you is but one thing. Now that one thing may have many ramifications, but it's one word, one descriptive word, or one idea of what the Alter Rebbe has done. And that is the word mamish. Mamish is really not an easy word to translate from Hebrew. It means definitely, it means real, it means authentic, it means something you can hold on to in a real way. That's what the Alter Rebbe has added to our lives. Let me explain. First of all, l'chaim. L'chaim, everybody. Gejantiv, if you have a l'chaim, please share l'chaim with me. The l'chaim could be on water. It could be on club soda. It could be on Glenlivet, Glenlivet, whatever it is. It should be for life. L'chaim, l'chaim. L'chaim, batya. L'chaim. So, this is actually a discussion I had with my dear friend, and perhaps some of you were attuned to it, with Rabbi Manis Friedman a couple months ago. And he asked me, how would you, in a sentence, how would you explain Tanya? I said, well, how about not in a sentence? How about in one word? And I said, mamish. And we started a very lengthy conversation about this. So let me explain. First of all, in the second chapter of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe quotes about the uniqueness of the divine soul. And what's the uniqueness of the divine soul? Quoting the Medrash, that it is literally a part of God. It is a part of God. And the Alter Rebbe only adds one word to that teachings of the Medrash, and he says the word mamish, really, literally, authentically. Not like, cute idea. It's bluish, but not exactly. No. Literally, authentically, really. In other words, who and what I am is authentically and really a divine piece of God. That's me. I am authentically a piece of the divine. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, I don't feel that. I don't sense that. I know the things that lurk in my mind. I know the lusts in my heart, and so on. So Alter Rebbe doesn't rule that out. As a matter of fact, the word mamish means really. So let me take it a step further. In the Talmud, when it speaks about the negativity of the person and the positivity of the person, often the term that's used is called the Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov, the evil inclination and the good inclination. Which sounds like we just have it, we're inclined this way or that way. And that's the way you could understand the human dimension, the human condition. That we have two different kinds of inclinations, and God gave us the freedom of choice to choose between the two of them. Comes the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, and from chapters 2 through 5 gives a very profound explanation that we don't have merely a godly dimension that is an inclination, but it's a full, a full entire being, shall we call. It's called the godly soul. It's got 10 powers to the soul. It's got the thought, speech, and action that are the garments that of self-expression of the soul. And he goes into great detail, giving us an understanding of the makeup of that soul. It's not just an inclination. It's a full entire being. It's mamish. So you get a sense of the realness and the authenticity of this dimension of you. It's not just merely an inclination. That's mamish. Then he goes from chapters 6 through 8, and he gives us zeh lumazeh, this opposite that. In other words, from the holy, you have the opposite. That which is connected to the divine, that which is disconnected from the divine and just self-directed. And it's also a complete being. It's not just an inclination that's negative. It's a whole person. It's got a whole personality. It's again with 10 attributes of 3 intellectual and 7 emotional dispositions, emotions, and a whole garments of self-expression. And he goes at great length to give us an understanding. And when you have that understanding, you know what you go, ooh, I just don't have 2 inclinations in me. I have 2 beings in me. And as he then concludes in chapter 9, that are wrestling. And you get a real vivid sense of this what's inside of you. And that you, when you have that recognition, you know what that gives you then? That we could be free people. The Alter Rebbe was freed from prison. You know who else was freed from prison? And because he was freed from prison? You and I. He gave us, because of the teachings that came after being freed from imprisonment, Noch Petersburg, after Petersburg, which was the capital where he was imprisoned, in the Splanera prison. As he was freed physically, he gave us the capability that we could be freed spiritually. What does that mean? What does it mean not to be free? What does it mean to be in prison? You could be in prison and totally be free. You could be walking the streets and you could be totally imprisoned. What does that mean? So if my reality is merely my physical reality, so of course if I'm in prison, I'm locked up because my whole reality is that I have freedom of movement. Freedom of movement you don't have when you're in prison. So you are locked up. That's true. But if what your reality is not the freedom of movement, but freedom to be as I choose, the freedom to serve and to do what I'm needed for. Oh, so wherever I am, I can fulfill that, even in prison. In that sense, I'm not really imprisoned at all. I am free. Now, I'm not free physically, right? But I am free to be as I choose. Maybe I can't express it exactly the way I want or the way I would like to, but whatever it is that I'm needed to express my connection now, so be it, I will. Right? That's the famous story of the two brothers. I'm sure some of you've heard this story before, but before that, L'chaim. Before a story, L'chaim. L'chaim every. Kajantu. Kajantu. So, famous story of the two brothers, Reb Zusha and Reb Elimelech. They were once traveling and they somehow got into a town with some no-goodniks, and they were by next to them, and some brawl or something occurred. They had nothing to do with it, but only because of circumstance or divine circumstance, they were also thrown into the prison jail together with a bunch of others. And not a pleasant place to be, and especially with guys who are not exactly pleasant individuals. And there came a point that they needed to daven, but there was a problem, because there was a pail that was used for relieving themselves for all the, like a dozen or so that were in that prison cell. And some people relieve themselves, and the Jewish law is that you cannot pray in a place where the excrement is there. So Rav Zusha was very distraught. Why? I won't be able to pray. So Rav Zusha said, Rabbi Elimelech, his brother, said to him, what's your problem? The same God that says that in a place where there isn't this pail, you should pray, the same God says that in a place where this pail and the excrement is, you don't pray. So just as God needs you in this place to pray, here he needs you not to pray. So what's the problem? Be happy. Oh, Rav Zusha picks up and says, oh, Elimelech, oh, thank you. And he was so excited, he got up and he started dancing with him. The two started dancing. The other inmates were taken aback, but then they also saw how Freilich, and they started to dance. They said, well, what are you guys dancing about? They point to the pail. And the prison guard comes, and he sees that these guys are having too good of a time in jail. Not supposed to be happening. He says, what's going on over here? So one of the guys points to the pail. He says, what, you're dancing for what? The pail? Yeah, that's what they're dancing. The guard comes in, takes out the pail, and throws it away. And Rabbi Elimelech stops the dance. He says, okay, now we can go pray. What's the point of the story? He said, whatever you're needed, right? If what you are doing in life is freedom of movement, is that what makes your life livable? So then, of course, in prison you're incarcerated. But if you're in a prison and it's all about what you're needed for, well, God needs you generally to pray, but at this circumstance you can't pray. So you needed not to pray. So don't pray. That's what God needs from you. Okay. So you're not imprisoned because you're doing whatever you're needed for. Is what you're needed for. Now, again, maybe you don't like that, but that's irrelevant if you recognize some. But that's what it's about, which we'll get more into that maybe later. So this day is a day that the Alter Rebbe gave us the opportunity that we could be released from our imprisonment. So in that sense, really, it's not a private thing that's happened. It wasn't just about a great individual who was, incarcerated and released from prison, but it was about a great individual whose impact is on you and I today, this very day, on thousands and tens of thousands of people around the globe, if not, I would say hundreds of thousands, that are affected. So in a sense, that is a global, all-encompassing celebration, because he's giving me and you the opportunity to be released from our imprisonment. How? With the one word that I said, mamish. It's real, it's authentic. What's real and authentic? Who and what I am. The divine in me is the real me. So the Alter Rebbe gives us a great understanding of the two dimensions that we have in us. The two beings that are wrestling to take control and to be the master over me. But when we understand clearly who's on first and what's on second, and who the players are, that gives us the capability that we can rise above and mamish, battle, and win battles, to win the daily battle of life and overcome the things that we need to overcome. That's mamish. Why? And how do you do that? So let's go a step further. Spoken about this idea before, and many of you in TRC in particular. I encourage everybody to go to TanyaRabbi.com and to find out more and join us for the Tanya Rabbi community. So, what does it mean? What's mamish? What does it mean? That my godly soul is my true identity. The divine in me is the real. I choose that to be the real me, even though I have another element in me. Now, what does that mean to say? It means like this. There are two components we have in our lives. We have that which is of the animal soul / human condition. What's the nature of the human condition? Anybody know? Anybody want to share a thought? What's the nature of the human condition? The nature of the human condition is cause and effect, right? Everything we do is the cause that creates an effect. Positive effect, negative effect, whatever the case may be. That's not the important point. The point is that everything we do is cause and effect, and that's the only thing that we know, right? We know that, if you're going to drink too much l'chaim, what kind of negative, could be maybe a feel-good effect first, but then there could be a real negative effect that comes thereafter, right? So that's why you got to be careful. We know when we overeat, what kind of effect that has on us and how we feel and what that does to our system, right? And invite shortly people to come and share. But I want to bring across this point. Then we can have it more exchange. So that's the human condition is cause and effect. So the natural state of the human condition is that the world is broken and we're here to fix it. That's the human condition. In a sense, that's what God created. It says, Asher bara Elokim la'asos, that God created everything to do, as Rashi explains, to do meaning to fix. The world was created in such a way that we fix the world. We're through the cause of our engagement in the world, we fix the world, right? So there's broken things and we fix it. So we're always seeking what's broken and how can we fix it, right? God forbid someone has got a disease. So we're trying to fix it. How? By finding the remedy that's going to heal this person and millions of others. So we could fix this problem, right? And everything in life is that way. So the human condition is that we're broken. It's broken. We're broken. And we're trying to fix and make it better. And there's a truth to that. But that's a truth that really comes from the human condition / the animal soul and the human soul. By perceiving ourselves that we've got this part in me that is negative, that is self-directed, and I got to fix that by overcoming that. And that way I become a better person. And there's a real truth to that. But that's not what the Alter Rebbe introduced into this world. That has been there. That is teachings of the Torah has been there. But the Alter Rebbe introduced a more profound light, a stronger light. Famous story with the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe was in Vienna, in a hotel lobby, and a bunch of Yakish German Viennese Jews came to him and said, what is this about Tanya and Hasidic teachings? We're traditional Jews. We did not have this in our upbringing. What is this? We've had the Talmud, the Mishnah, the Gemara, and so on. Where did this come to, part of where did this all of a sudden, just 200 years ago, become part of the tradition? Says the previous Rebbe to them. They were in a hotel lobby, high ceilings, beautiful decorative ceiling. And he says to them, do you see the beautiful decorative work on the ceiling? They say, yes. I don't know where he's going with that. Then he takes a lamp and shines it on there, and he says, do you see it more clearly now? Is it more beautiful now? Well, absolutely. That's exactly what Hasidic teachings did. They took that which is part of Torah teachings and came to Tanya, and it's this new, more powerful light that gives us the opportunity and the capability of seeing things more clearly, more mamish. That's mamish beautiful. That's really beautiful. That's really exquisite. When you shine the light, you see it. That's what Tanya does. It shines the light. So in this instance over here, what's it shining the light? Shine the light not on the struggle, even though the Alter Rebbe speaks about the struggle, by the way. So it's not that, not to recognize that there's a struggle in life, of course. But to shine the light on your sense of self, your self-image. What is your self-image? A person struggling? Or are you a part of the divine? Or are you a godly soul? That reflection of the divine presence of God. And that's who and what I am. That's what Tanya does for us. That I can look at myself differently. I'm not broken. I'm whole. I don't need fixing, so to speak. Not that I don't need fixing. But I am complete. I'm whole, complete, and therefore worthy. Why? Not because I did something, but because I am something. What am I? Part of the divine. Literally, mamish, authentically. Not figuratively. Really. Really. That's what I am and who I am. That's the image that I choose to see myself in. Does that mean I don't have things broken? I do, on a functional level, but that's not my self-definition. That's not my reality. That's not where I choose to live. I don't choose to live in my brokenness. I choose to live in my wholeness. Is that message clear? That's mamish. That's real. That's the authentic me, the real me. That's the mamish me. When we do that, wow, do we live a different life. Rather than coming from a broken place, and therefore seeing the world as a broken place, and seeing other people in their brokenness, and not in a bad way, in a way that you're compassionate and trying to fix them, help them to fix whatever they need fixing. Which, there's something to that. But there's something greater, that when you can see yourself as whole, complete, and worthy, and that when will give you a greater capacity to see another whole, complete, and worthy. Does that mean there aren't things in me that are need fixing? Absolutely. But that's not how I look at myself, and that's not how I approach my day. That's not how I come, I don't come to engage in my day as a broken person. I come to engage in my day as a whole, complete, and worthy person because of the divinity that's in me. And when I constantly remind myself, meditate upon that, and visualize that, and make that me and my self-image, then what will happen, of course, is on the functional level of how I act during the day, it will become much more a reality in my thought, speech, and action throughout the day. As opposed to, I'm got issues, I've got problems, I've got things to fix, I've got this, I'm kind of lazy, and I'm kind of, sometimes insensitive. And now, are those things perhaps true? Let's assume that they are true. The more you think that way, the more you become that way. The more you tell yourself that narrative, the more you will live that way. The more you tell yourself that you're not that way, or better yet, that you are whole, complete, and worthy, the more you will be able to live that way. And we'll explain a little more what that means. I just gave just the general idea right now. So with that, let's say l'chaim, let's sing a niggin, then maybe we'll have a little conversation. I know Alan is ready to share. He always has something whole, complete, and worthy to share. Yeah, he always has something interesting. I just want to make a note that this is something that we speak in TRC, in the Tanya Rabbi community, at great length, and this is a very powerful tool in our lives. It's taken from Tanya, but in our conversations, able to bring it to new dimensions in people's lives. L'chaim, everybody. Gejontiv. Didam ba la 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 la, did la 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 la, did la 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 la, did la 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 la, did la 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 la, did la 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 la, di da da da, did la 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 la, did la la la, ay la 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 la, did la la hey la la la, did lam param. Alan, good man, share with us. You're mute.
Hey, Rabbi. Do you know what the human condition today is? The human condition today is l'chaim.
Oh, good gesagt. Well said. That's the human condition.
So, Rabbi, there's this Lubavitch melody that I used to play, and I can't think of how it goes, but I know the English words to it is like, soon we'll be at the inn and there'll soon be plenty of vodka.
Oh, yeah. Hold on.
What is the name of it?
Is that stuff? Is it Ukrainian words? Right, you
know that
yes,
one, yeah?
Yes. One second. Yes, thank you. You know what? I'm lost to the words for a moment. Maybe, hopefully it'll come back to me. Yeah.
That's okay. I can't come up with the words myself, but I know the melody, you know? At least we know the melody.
Yes. You know what? The words, I'm not 100% on the words either. Anyways, hopefully it'll come to me. My son knows it really well. If my son Mendel's around, Mendel, come and sing it for us.
He probably would know the name of it. Your son would probably know.
Nizorich chlopchim, That's the name of it. Nizariche
That's it.
Chlopchi.
Nezorice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not Hebrew words. It's not Yiddish words. Not Aramaic.
I think it's kind of Russian words.
I think it's Ukrainian. I don't think it's Russian even. I think it's Ukrainian. I don't remember now 100%. All right, maybe my son will come on.
You're right, but you got it now. You remembered.
Yeah. So, Alan, share with us. Yutes Kislev.
Yutes Kislev. Yeah.
Special.
Give me a minute, and I could tell an Alter Rebbe story. Okay.
Okay. Sure. Absolutely. Let me just see if anybody else has either made a comment, said l'chaim. Hope everybody's okay. Let's see for a moment. Maybe we have someone else who's going to share with us, perhaps.
Okay.
Until you get ready. In the meantime. Oh. All right. Is that Louise? Hello.
Oh. Hi.
How are you? A good Yom Tov.
Good Yom Tov. Bringing you greetings from Oklahoma City. My rabbi is Rabbi Goldman.
Oh, please say hello to him. Wonderful guy. Wonderful. Beautiful. Yes, please. Thank you for the greetings and say l'chaim with him for Yutes Kislev. Celebrate and make sure you're learning Tanya with him.
I will, and with you, and as much as I can, I'll try to be more diligent on the next cycle.
Okay, perfect timing. Chapter 1 starts tomorrow, folks. Chapter 1 tomorrow. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Sure, absolutely.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim. All right.
I got a story.
Oh, okay. Alan's got a story for us.
Okay, so the Alter Rebbe was once visited by a Melamed, a teacher from Klimovitz. And the Alter Rebbe said, I have a small favor to ask of you. On your way home, please go through the town of Yanovitz and order for me mezuzot from Reb Reuben the Sofer. So he was happy with his opportunity to fulfill the Rebbe's request, and he went immediately. And along the way, he thought, I think I'll ask Reb Reuben to write some mezuzot for me as well. And even though they're expensive, I'll get a few of them. After all, is there any greater proof of their quality than have the Rebbe himself buy his mezuzot from Reb Reuben? He must be really mamish, amazing mezuzot, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So delighted with the chance to fulfill the Rebbe's request, the Chassid went immediately and he arrived at the house of the Sofer, and he ordered the mezuzot for both the Alter Rebbe and himself. And Reb Reuben told him he would have to wait several days. And true to his word, a few days later, the mezuzot were ready. And then Reb Reuben told him very carefully, be careful not to mix up your mezuzot with the Rebbe's mezuzot. And he packaged it carefully and gave it to him. Well, the Melamed decided to intentionally give the Alter Rebbe the wrong ones and take the Rebbe's mezuzot for himself. And he thought, what possible harm could come from substituting one batch of mezuzot for the other? If the Rebbe notices a change, I can always apologize for having mixed them up. Well, when the Melamed arrived in at the Rebbe's house to give him the mezuzot. The Rebbe carefully examined the package and looked carefully at each of the mezuzot. And then he turned to his chassid and said, "Are these the ones Rebbe Reuben sent to me?" The Melamed, the Melamed started getting really nervous. And he said, "Perhaps I made a mistake and confused yours with the ones I brought for myself." So he took out the second parcel. He gave it to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe looked at it closely. And finally he looked up and he says, yes, these are the mezuzot I ordered. The Melamed was upset and he was confused. And he went back to Yanovitz and he went to the sofa, Reb Reuben, and he said, "What do you sell me mezuzot that were not good?" And he told the scribe that he had mistakenly given the Rebbe the wrong package. Then he described in detail the Rebbe's reaction to the first set, the ones designated by Reb Reuven as the Melamed's mezuzah, and the second, the ones designated by Reb Reuven as the Rebbe's mezuzah. And he said, "It must be that the first mezuzah were no good." Reb Reuven answered him this way: "Rest assured that your mezuzot were also written as were the Rebbe's to the most careful specifications, with the same kavanah, with the same concentration, and with all the requirements set forth by the holy Ari of Sfat. The only difference between the two sets is that I had prior instructions from the Rebbe to write his only when the moon is full. And that is why you had to wait several days in Yanovitz. I could not begin to write the Rebbe's mezuzah until the full moon." The Rebbe must have seen that the mezuzot he gave him were written before the full moon, and so suspected that they were the wrong ones.
Wow.
And this is the story.
Beautiful. Thank you. You know, I never heard that story.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. L'chaim Vrocha. Beautiful. I never heard that story. Thank you for sharing that, Alan.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Tzaddikim see things that we don't see. That's for sure. That's for sure. No question about that. And the Alter Rebbe sees things that. One second, what's going on? Oops. Okay. Seth, if you could, I don't know how to do this, but I see you're not here now. If you can just remove yourself from the video, the live video. Okay, whatever. So, yeah, a Rebbe has a vision of things that are far beyond us. A tzaddik, interesting, is someone who has mastery over feelings of the heart and of the mind, but a Rebbe goes far beyond that. A Rebbe has mastery of the world, not just themselves, and therefore can see what's going on, or and I don't know if "see" is the right word, or knows what's going on, at least has the awareness about, in this case, the mezuzahs, that they're not the right ones, right? Erica has a question. If the, Jewish prisoners are in prison, do they have a mezuzah in their cells or what? You mean in Israel, if they're Jewish prisoners in prison, do they have a mezuzah? I hope so. I hope they do. I'm not certain. But the truth is, if you're Jewish and you're in prison in Montreal, for example, you do not have an obligation to put a mezuzah up because you don't own the place, or you're not renting the place. It's not your property, so you don't have the obligation, right? So okay, beautiful. So I want to go a bit further on this notion that the Alter Rebbe is helping us to release ourselves from prison. So it's not just he himself who got released, but we are. We're released, right, from the spiritual prison that we have in our lives. We're released from that. And this is the word mamish, that one word, that it's real, authentic. In other words, who I am, as opposed to the function of what I do. Right? The human condition is that what defines me is the things that I do. So people are defined by the work that they do. Other people defined by the goodness that they do. Oh, such a good person, and that's how we define them, right? Wonderful, good person. And although there's a truth to that, but there's a deeper truth that we can connect to. And who I am and what I am is not based on what I do, not what I think, not what I say, and not my actions. That doesn't define me. What defines me is simply a piece of God that's in me. And that piece of God is in me and in another person, so I have nothing to be haughty over. The fact that this is, my reality. When do I get haughty? Is that when I define myself about the things that I've accomplished, good things that I've accomplished, but still that will make me haughty, because what defines me is all my great accomplishments. So of course I'm going to be full of myself, and therefore humble yourself. Well, how are you going to humble yourself if you're really indeed a great achiever? How are you going to do that? Where does it come from? The problem with that is where we started, is I define myself by the things that I've done, by my great accomplishments. But if I define myself not by the things I've accomplished, not by what I do, but who I am. Who I am has got nothing to do with my accomplishments. Now, who I am, again, is this divine individual who's whole, complete, and worthy. Now, what could be the problem with that is, well, if I'm whole, complete, and worthy, then what do I need to do anything? Well, now you can do the next part in your life, and that is, when you're broken, what are you then? A needy person to fill yourself up, that you could feel good about yourself. So when you're broken, for example, so you need love. You need love to feel good about yourself. So you reach out to somebody and you do them a favor because you want the love in return, but really you're not doing them a favor, you're doing yourself a favor because you want their love. So you're a broken person who is very needy and therefore does wonderful good things out of that, but out of neediness to have love or to feel good about myself. I need to accomplish things. I need to do this great, job, and because I'll do this great job, I'm going to feel accomplished and I'm going to feel good about myself. I'm going to feel worthy because I've accomplished. That's a problem. You're coming from brokenness. And therefore, the only reason you are achieving is not for goodness sake, but for your sake, to fill the hole in your soul. I hope this is getting clear to you folks. On the other hand, if my self-image I choose is that I'm whole, complete, and worthy, I'm a reflection of the divine, I'm a part of the divine in me, so then what? Then what? Now I can do what I'm needed for, because I'm not needy. I'm whole, I'm complete. Now I could serve God for what I'm needed for. Oh, now I need to pray. I'll pray. Now because the pail is here, I can't pray? Not a problem. I'm not needed for that. So whatever I'm needed for, that's what I'll do. It takes a heavy load off the person. On top of everything, by the way. And you could really feel bisimcha, with joy. Because you don't need to achieve something in order to have joy in your life. Now, again, that doesn't mean you sit back and don't do anything. If I'm your whole, complete, and worthy, I don't need to do anything. Just sit back, and collect the paycheck. Pass go, collect 200. No. Now that I'm not needy because I'm not broken, I'm whole and complete, and that's how I engage life. That's how I engage my day. That's how I engage the people in my life. Now I could be of service and do what I'm needed for, what God needs from me, which will reflect what my family needs from me, my spouse needs from me, my children need from me, my community needs from me. And I will do that whole and complete, not for the return, but because I'm sharing me with others. Nothing greater, nothing more beautiful that we can do in our lives. L'chaim, 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 everybody. There's so much more about this that I'd like to talk, but we're going to finish up in a few moments. Alan, do you have something to share?
No, I'm just glad to be here, that's all.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it's definitely good to be here. Absolutely.
I do have a question for you, though.
Go ahead.
I was reading up, about the incident in 1798 when the Alter Rebbe was jailed, and he was given a whole bunch of questions to answer. And one of them was why, in the Hasidic interpretation of Kabbalah, was the term Malchus, but in this context, it referred to the attribute furthest removed from the Ein Sof, the
right.
source of divine life. And did this not imply disrespect for the imperial regime of the Tsar,
Right.
What a question, what a question.
Well, yeah.
But it also implies that they knew something about Malchus, which was kind of really interesting, no?
Very interesting. Well, there's a story. There's a...
Such a deep level to even ask that question,
So, there's a story that the Tsar of Russia came to his prison cell incognito to see him. And when he came to see him and to engage him, the Alter Rebbe stood up and said, "Your Highness." And he was shaken because, first of all, he came incognito because, the Tsar of Russia doesn't come to a prison or to a prisoner, right? Right? And now he was, revealed. So he says, "How do you know who I am?" The Alter Rebbe never met him before. His picture wasn't on the internet back in the day. So where did he know? He didn't know him from anywhere. But as he says to him, because royalty down here is a reflection of royalty above, of Malchus above. And so I saw the reflection in view of the attribute of Malchus in the divine order of things. That's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah. So, so I invite everybody to choose to see themselves in a different light And what that means in a practical way, we're going to Farbregen another time. Or again, I invite everybody to, you can try the TRC for a month, and if you like it, then continue. You can have a trial run. Strongly recommend, as many others who are part of it, and that you can truly live with a whole, complete, and worthiness, and not be allowed to be beat down by anybody who thinks or says or is abusive of you in any manner. And most importantly, not the negative side that we have, that we beat ourselves down. At times, some people have that personality. And how our lives will be very different, so much more beautiful, so much more impactful as a result. So l'chaim, happy Yontif to everybody. I thank everybody for participating and being a part of this Farbregen. The Farbregen will continue. God willing, we will continue with more Farbrengens. But in the meantime, Laila Tov. Laila Tov from Montreal. And I'm sorry I couldn't get to everybody to participate, but we will we'll continue our conversation, our Farbregen. A good Yontif, everybody. We should be written and sealed for a great year of study together and of following the path that will bring us mamish, real great things in our lives beyond what you can imagine. L'chaim. L'chaim. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Amazing. All right, folks. Everybody here, you're amazing. Thank you.